This is a video that's going to make you mad. You're not going to like what I'm talking about in this video, but I think it's a valid thing to talk about, which is why I am making a video about it in the first place. Let's talk about what Pierre McGuire said on TSN in Ottawa earlier this week. He was asked about the Detroit Red Wings, and he was talking about the Red Wings prospects and who they have and all that stuff. However, McGuire actually talks about one prospect in particular, and he says this: "Don't be surprised if the Red Wings general manager Steve Yzerman trades Filip Zadina." That right here is the little headline on DetroitNews.com, and the article goes over what exactly Pierre McGuire talked about on this radio hit. He was asked if it's too early to consider trading Zadina, who has 3 goals in 12 games with Detroit's minor league affiliate in Grand Rapids after scoring 16 goals in 59 games with the Griffins last year. "It's a fair question to bring up," McGuire said. "When I've watched him play, the one thing that stands out is when the puck is going his way, it's really good. When it's not going his way, it's not so good. He's going to have to find a way to get over that." And as you can imagine, this little radio bit, this whole idea that was brought up by Pierre McGuire, set Detroit Nation ablaze with comments saying that this was ridiculous. Let's go over onto our Detroit Red Wings and talk about what they said in the comments, because this same article that was on Detroit Now was posted onto Reddit. Let's talk about what exactly their comments are saying here. One of the comments down here actually goes into how trading Zadina would be a bad thing. What could you get for him? He's not exactly a bust yet, but his value is pretty low right now. And then the response to this is actually really interesting. I like this a lot. To be fair, Zadina's trade value is higher now than it will be in a couple months if he keeps projecting down this same path. If Yzerman thinks he's going to be a bust, trade him before he becomes one. It just depends on what Yzerman thinks. That being said, I highly doubt Yzerman thinks that he is, as he is one of his top prospects, and he loves reclamation projects and swinging for home runs. Now, at this point, it brings up an even different philosophy right here. Do you give up on Filip Zadina? 2 years after this guy was drafted 6th overall? Seriously, he hasn't been amazing. Now, I will say that. But even on the 6th overall front, look at this right here. They asked Pierre if Zadina should never have been drafted 6th overall in the 2018 draft, and McGuire said that that's fair. Now, I'll tell you this right here, that I don't agree with in the slightest. This is where I go on my low-key kind of rant on this 2018 draft. Filip Zadina was the consensus 3rd overall pick by many people. He was in the conversation to go 2nd overall over Svechnikov around December 2 years ago. Filip Zadina had the potential to be an elite goal scorer at the league who could get upwards of 40, 45, 50 goals in a year, because his offensive potential has always been labeled as sky freaking high. The 2018 draft was filled with his ups and downs, and Filip Zadina, looking at it in hindsight, if he dropped to 7th overall, that would have been an absolute bananas conversation. I'm a main Vancouver Canucks fan, and the Vancouver Canucks had the 7th overall pick that year. I literally made a video talking about how Filip Zadina has no chance of dropping to Vancouver. And a lot of that had to do with just the overall projection of the draft. Kotkaniemi went 3rd overall because Montreal needed a center. Kotkaniemi was only there because he was a center. The same thing can be said about Barrett Hayton. Now, the only other player in that conversation that was taken ahead of Zadina, it's Brady Tkachuk, and Tkachuk was actually in a battle with Zadina for that 3rd spot, but most people said it was Zadina who deserved to be 3rd. So, with this whole ideology right here, It's absolutely bananas to take a look at it and say, oh yeah, Zadina shouldn't have been drafted 6th overall. Are you serious? The guy was supposed to be drafted 3rd or 4th. He was only dropped because the two teams in front of them needed centers. Sure, Kotkaniemi is in the NHL right now, and sure, Barrett Hayton is in the NHL right now, and Zadina is over there in the AHL not being as productive as people thought he would be. But in my opinion, you can't say that Filip Zadina didn't deserve to be drafted where he was drafted. He deserved to be drafted higher, if anything. And that's just taking a look at it from 2018 eyes. Sure, from eyes today, you could say, oh yeah, Filip Zadina probably shouldn't have been drafted there. But revisionist history, things like that, just don't really accomplish anything. Sure, Filip Zadina is not as good as the guys who were drafted after him. Quinn Hughes is in the NHL right now, and he's doing pretty well. I said I'm a Vancouver fan, so I'm familiar with that. But in most of the projections, Zadina was better than Hughes. In my own personal one, I actually had Hughes a little bit higher than Zadina, but it's weird. It's really weird that I'm actually feeling this way about this draft and these comments right here. Does Zadina need time? Yes, he needs time. Does Zadina have the potential? Yes, he has potential. But does he also have potential of being a bust? Well, yes, he does. But the fact of the matter is, you can say that about any NHL player who, honestly, just hasn't cracked the league yet. And we talked a little bit about the Detroit Red Wings subreddit. There were actually so many posts throughout the past few months talking about, hey, do you think we should have gotten Hughes instead? Because if you remember in that draft, the one that everybody thought Detroit was going to go after was Quinn Hughes. He is a left-handed defenseman. He is playing out of the University of Michigan. He's projected to go around 5, 6, or 7. So, Detroit, it's your time. But the Red Wings opted with a different option when they saw that Filip Zadina fell into their laps. And I remember that pick. I remember specifically Zadina dropping to 6th overall, and I was freaking out because I was like, oh my gosh, Detroit's going to go with Hughes, which means that Vancouver will get Zadina. Now, revisionist history again, it does say that I like Hughes more than I like Zadina because I was a big fan of the best skater in the draft. But seriously, all of this is such a big overreaction in my opinion to say, oh, you could see the Red Wings trading Zadina, and oh, they probably shouldn't have drafted him 6th overall, and oh, just gotta wait, man, because Yzerman, he's gonna trade him. Like, come on. The guy's only 19. Seriously? Now, I will say that it is kind of illogical for me to take a look at this and say that Zadina will 100% be the star that we thought he would be. Back at the 2018 NHL Entry Draft, I remember there were a lot of people, myself included, who legitimately believed that Zadina was already NHL ready. Now, to the credit of the draftees, he wasn't, and the guys that were taken ahead of him were. But still, that idea was there. A lot of people didn't really think that Jesperi Kotkaniemi would be NHL ready, but he was. Same could be said about Brady Tkachuk. Now, Matthew Tkachuk did the same thing, but Brady Tkachuk wasn't necessarily the one that everybody said, okay, he's going to be NHL ready right off the bat. Turns out, the masses were wrong, he made the team, and he's been doing great things. Give it another year, and Quinn Hughes is in the league, and Barrett Hayton is in the league, and all of a sudden, out of the top 7 draft picks in the 2018 NHL Draft, the only one to not be on their NHL roster right now is Filip Zadina. And that sucks. It sucks that he hasn't been as good as people thought he would be, but as McGuire said, he's got some other things to work on, specifically his play away from the puck, but when he does have the puck, he's a very dangerous player. Now, do the stats depict that? Do they say that he's as dangerous as we thought he would be? No, but we've got time. We've got loads of time to develop this player, and his potential is so high that if you traded Zadina, I don't even know what you would ask for in return. What do you get back in a Zadina trade? Do you get back several first-round picks? I don't really think that's probable or all too smart. Do you get back another prospect who's been having trouble producing at the minor league level? That kind of seems redundant, doesn't it? What do you get in a Zadina trade? So, overall, this discussion brought up by McGuire, I just think it's so weird, and I think it's definitely an interesting discussion point, which is why I made a video about it. What is it now? 10 minutes. Okay. I don't think you trade Zadina. I think you wait until he becomes an elite NHL goal scorer. That's what I think. Hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.